So it was also agreed today that the Commonwealth would lead an initiative to connect all the digital systems that the states and territories are using so they can interact with each other. That doesn't mean they need to be all on the same system. Reproducing that effort would take considerable time and unnecessary cost. But we can design and develop a digital overlay across all those systems, which will mean that if there were to be an outbreak in a particular place, what that means is that we would be able to harness the tracing capabilities of more states and territories to plug in to the tracing work that is being done in that particular jurisdiction. So that's a positive development. It comes out of that process of Dr. Finkel and Commodore Hill looking at the two systems that were being used in New South Wales and Victoria. So we welcome that as a further initiative. We noted today reports from Jane Halton, the former Secretary of Health and Finance, and the work that she has been doing to examine all the quarantine systems around Australia, and that was a very positive report. She'll be now moving to finalise that report, and she's providing that feedback directly to each of the states and territories. But her report today was a positive one about the standard of that quarantine arrangements that are now in place right around the country. We also, of course, addressed the issue of international arrivals today. We want to see Australians to be able to get home. Some months ago, in the middle of July, the states requested that the Commonwealth put in a cap, that the federal government cap the number of arrivals coming back into Australia. The reason for that was fairly obvious. We had a situation in Victoria which was rapidly escalating. In New South Wales, there was also a lot of pressure on their system as they were dealing with outbreaks, and that was causing concern in many other jurisdictions. So we put those caps on. They've been in place now for several months. But it was time to start lifting those caps, and we made announcements about that earlier this week. I want to thank in particular the New South Wales Government for their very quick and prompt response to support those liftings of the caps. And today we did get support for moving to those additional numbers, but it will be done in a staged way. New South Wales will move to take an additional 500 by Monday week, so that's the 27th of September. Queensland and Western Australia on that same day will be taking an additional 200 per week from the 27th of September. And by the 4th of October, Queensland will then move to that full 500 extra, so they'll increase it by 300 again. And by the 11th of October, WA will also go to that 500 extra a week. That will give those states additional time to get the quarantine arrangements in place. All of that will be done on the express guarantee of support, which I've always been happy to provide, which was ADF assistance in that task. So we'll be focusing much more of our ADF support on that quarantine assistance in those jurisdictions. And this is going to help get more Australians home. Australians who are trying to get home at the moment are seeking to do that for many reasons, and particularly those more vulnerable, for circumstances completely outside their control. It's not like they had an opportunity to come home earlier or anything like that. But we've got to remember these are Australians coming home. These are Western Australians coming home to Western Australia. They are Queenslanders coming home to Queensland. Now, New South Wales has been carrying the majority share and will continue to do that. They will go to 3,000 a week from Monday week. About, I understand, 40% of those who are coming through New South Wales are going on to other states and territories. So New South Wales is welcoming home those from other states and territories, and they are quite happy to do so. And I thank the New South Wales Government, and I know all the other states and territories appreciate the role that they have played. So Queensland and Western Australia will be also increasing the number that they'll be taking, and I welcome their support for that today. Now, the smaller states and territories, they have also agreed to work with the Commonwealth to assist us when it comes to bringing in commercial charter flights. The reason we need to focus on Sydney and Queensland and Western Australia is because that's where the commercial flights go. If additional commercial flights were to go to Darwin or would go to Adelaide, that would be fine, and those states and territories have expressed their willingness to take additional, but that's not where the flights go. But all of the other states and territories, including the ACT and Tasmania, even where there is not yet an international airport, but we can put those arrangements in place quickly to deal with a commercial charter or an emergency evacuation. Now, in particular, Howard Springs. Howard Springs is a facility that we will be able to use to deal with those type of evacuation charters if they become necessary. Now, at present, we don't have any of those currently planned, but I should note that since the pandemic started back in March, in its most significant form, we have assisted some, I think it's 27,000 Australians to get back over that period of time.